Oh, hello. Yeah. Sorry. Forgot to check the microphone before we started. Welcome to the daily NFT market health analysis. Let me just post my tweets and stuff. And we can get started. Okay. Cool. So yeah, welcome to the daily NFT market health analysis with me, Daniel Tenner, aka Swombat, where I look at what's going on in the market based on the data of what's going on. And as you can tell, if you're a regular watcher, I'm also constantly updating the way that I'm doing the data to try and make it more useful, more relevant to what's like to give better signals about what's happening in the market. And I'll talk a little bit about this today as well. And let me take out the music now, as lovely as it is. So thank you very much for joining. And as you can see, what we're observing here is there's been a little bit of a bump in the top 10, in the Zeneca Old Index, and even in Zeneca New, but not in the Women-Led Projects Index, which has had a dip. It had a bump earlier for some reason, and now it's had a dip. We'll look into why exactly that's happening and sort of try and figure out, is it actually real? Is it just an artifact of something? And the reason I say that is because I've already had a look at the data, obviously, since I posted my threads. And what I've seen is that what's happened here is mostly due to this one project. I mean, there is a slight increase even without the project. But it's mostly due to this pale beige project. That's basically pudgy penguins. And so when I saw that, I went and asked on Llamaverse, like what people, because I'm not always in touch with everything that's happening naturally. And what's happened is that apparently pudgy penguins got delisted from OpenSea. That caused some kind of uproar, and then they got listed on, like, Looks Rare stepped in and made a big fuss about listing them, and basically just drove a bunch of attention to pudgy penguins. That helped create this little thing there. Without it, there's still, however, a slight increase, so it's not so bad. And we'll see that. Yeah, we'll look at the other indices as well in more detail, but we're seeing like kind of like it's not really dropping anymore on Zeneca Old, maybe a slight bounce back up, and similarly for Zeneca New. And however, the Women-Led Projects Index is still dropping, but there's nothing exceptional other than this pudgy penguins thing going on here. And we have ways to neutralize that. And of course, in the new top 10, which we'll get to at some point, it will no longer be an issue because pudgy penguins will not be in the top 10 anymore, because it's not really that relevant compared to projects like Azuki and, well, a lot of other projects like that. Doodles is another one. If we look at the actual index here, let's take this bump as face value. It's helpful. It's, we could be going back towards an uptrend. I mean, I still think that, if we get a break from crypto, we will be going back towards an uptrend. So, and we are getting a break from crypto now, and we are seeing across all those indices a slight, like at least a slowdown of the drop. Like, it's no longer dropping. It's maybe looking like it might recover. And that's what I think is going on there. And hopefully, if crypto isn't pumping all the time, we'll go back to some kind of trend that's a bit similar to this and sort of head back towards a bull market. I would hate to think that this was the bull market of March and it's over already and we're back into a kind of bear market for another month or two before going to the next one. That would be really sad. That would basically be evidence that maybe the Ape coin release just took the energy out of the market. Whilst pretending to activate the market, it actually just sucked all the energy out in one big hype spike, and then it just collapsed back down and has just been going down since. But the fact that it's kind of looking up now is hopeful if it's sustained. So I'm still giving this a red dot for today because I want to see this sustained and not just collapse back down and continue to go down, which is what I fear might happen. If the energy is purely based on the pudgy penguins delisting rather than anything else. So we'll see. I don't know the future. I can't tell the future. I can barely tell what's going on in the present. So definitely don't ask me to tell what's going on in the future. There's an interesting question about whether it's all pudgy penguins. And for this, I'm actually going to bring in this new top 10 that's based on the dynamic relevance ranking. So if we recall from previous sessions, we've got this relevance index and I've started to build that allows us to do some kind of dynamic top 10 thing. And if we filter out the projects that are very recent, and just so if we ignore these orange projects, we still have basically, so NFT worlds. Okay, so we have Bored Ape, Mutant Apes, Crypto, Azuki, Clonex, Doodles, Bored Ape Kennel Club, World of Women, NFT Worlds, and Cool Cats, I think. So we have 2 of them. Yeah, we actually have Cool Cats in there as well. Did we yesterday? Yeah, we did. Okay, anyway, we have all these projects in there. That's the kind of new top 10 that's more based on relevance of, or like on that relevance algorithm that I talked about yesterday. And that gives us a different top 10 index that's not that dissimilar, but let's have a look now. So let's start with, actually, this is the regular top 10 index that we've been looking at so far, and this is the new one. And obviously there's differences because there's different set of projects, but the trends are roughly aligned. Maybe they're this is the new one, so maybe they're slightly more visible. You can see this trend here working a little bit, like looking a little bit more clear here than in this one, where it's a bit more flat here. So we can if we look at this new top 10, sorry, I've confused my trying to get rid of, there you go, the red line is gone. If we look here, we can see that this one doesn't include pudgy penguins at all, and yet there is a rebound here. So the rebound is not just pudgy penguins, it is also in the new top 10, which is more dynamic, more representative of the actual state of the market. So that tells me that this is not just an artifact of pudgy penguins, but it is actually really, there is, like, it is no longer trending down at the moment, although, it could still be in this downtrend overall. So the red symbol is still valid, I think, the red dot, but also the kind of little shade of orange. If we do break back up here and start going back up, then that will be a positive signal for the market, and it looks like it could do that. I mean, it's trending in that direction at the moment. If we carry on and look at other indices, let's look at the Zeneca Old. There we see also this little rebound, and a valid question is, well, how much of that is down to the pudgy penguins again? How much of that is down to the top 10 rather than the other projects in Zeneca Old? And luckily there, I've already done this work of creating a Zeneca Old index without the top 10. And so the charts are being generated, and we can see that, well, there it is actually sort of like bouncing a little bit in that index as well, the one that doesn't include the top 10. So there is a little bit of that energy as well, even if we don't include the pudgy penguins' somewhat artificial activity, which is good news. It means that there is actually at least a slowdown of the collapse, which is consistent with the fact that crypto is no longer pumping. And the market is maybe starting to begin to think about going upwards. It's not quite going upwards yet. So if we look at this one, this is like, you can hardly call that going upwards, especially after such a drop. But at least it's not going down anymore right now. And I think if crypto gives us more breathing room, then it's going to continue going up. That's my hope. So we then have the Zeneca New Index to look at, and here you can see that there is also again that same sort of slightly pathetic rebound that at least isn't going down anymore. And so again, that's like, it's either hopeful or not very inspiring, depending on how you look at it. I choose to look at it as hopeful, because with crypto risking, like looking like it might pump, I'm kind of expecting everything to go down the drain in the NFT space as all the attention drains away towards crypto. So anything better than that to me is hopeful. Obviously, you can make your own conclusions about that. If we then look at the women-led projects, that one is still just crashing through the floor. It's just continuing to go down. It's a bit of a depressing index to look at so far. Like, it basically what it means that this index keeps going down is that all these projects, that some of which are relatively recent, like starting in January, February, Meta Angels is in there, I think. Yeah, I think I've included Meta Angels in there, and Women Rise and a bunch of other relatively recent projects. I don't have World of Women Galaxies yet in there, but all these other projects basically are just seeing ever decreasing volumes on average, and they're just not really recovering. When they get a little recovery, it doesn't last and it goes back to this downtrend. So overall, that segment of the market is currently just not doing very well volume wise, and as we can see here, is not doing very well price wise either. So yeah, that's a bit sad, but it is what it is, and that's partly the point of looking at this data, is to see the data rather than just the like what we'd like to see, or what the vibes are, or what, like, whether people are enthusiastic about women-led projects and so on. I'm enthusiastic about women-led projects, and yet, you know, the fact is the volumes have been trending down for 3 months now. And so women-led projects have been in a kind of downtrend that you might call a bear market for about 3 months. Yeah, which makes the performance of some of the projects there actually quite remarkable, if they're holding up a decent floor, even as the whole segment that they're in is kind of dropping. It means they're doing better than most of the rest of the segment. I'm getting towards the end of my charts here, so if you have questions, please do ask them. And by the way, you can also ask the questions while I'm in the middle of talking about the charts. I am hopefully capable of ignoring them until I'm ready to answer them. So feel free to type the questions whenever you're ready, whenever you have a question. I'm going to have another quick look here at this relevance index. Well, actually, just let's have a look at crypto first, and like just confirm what I've said. Like, crypto is kind of being a little bit boring here, which is good. It's unclear whether it's going to continue going down or start swinging back in the other direction. I suspect that even if it's going to be going back up eventually, I think it will swing back down and retest some kind of support before it goes up. So maybe that's what's going on right now, is getting ready to go back down and retest, and then it will go back up, or maybe it will retest and fail and just collapse down. We'll see. One quick look at this. So I've added more projects to this, by the way. So there's now 237. Yesterday there were 215. I'm actually using the Flips Finance top 10 lists as a source of interesting projects to add. Not all of them are really worth adding, but there are a couple of entries. I think Karafuru wasn't there yesterday. What else wasn't there? There's this skull thing. Hold on, what was it? Crypto Skulls wasn't in there yesterday. And so the index gets slowly better. I think I should have like another pile of things being tracked before I can really call this a representative index, but I'm hoping that soon enough I'll have enough of the important projects tracked in there that when I say here's the top 100 of relevant projects, I'm actually like pretty close to having that top 100 there. So question from Nick. Hi Nick, what's your take on OpenSea integrating Sol NFTs in April? Well, I'm like I don't know what it will do. I suspect it's not going to do anything bad to the Solana ecosystem. It might help drive more attention, but right now, so the reason why I don't invest in Solana projects at the moment is not because I can't, because I have a Phantom wallet, I have some Sol in it, and I don't invest in that stuff because I haven't seen any good projects that are worth investing, apart from Little Atlas, of course. Nick is the founder of Little Atlas, which I'm helping advise. And so making it easier to buy the projects on OpenSea. I mean, most of the projects on OpenSea I don't look at. If I open the OpenSea index, like the OpenSea homepage, like there's lots of people, I don't know who the hell clicks on this explore thing and looks at all these kind of random projects there, and decides to buy based on what's listed here. I mean, there's some projects that I've also heard, of course, from other sources here that I know, like I know Treeverse is quite reputable. I know Cyber Brokers has been doing really well. And I don't know, it doesn't, it's like I don't buy projects just because I see them on this list. So the fact that there's going to be some Solana projects in there doesn't necessarily make a difference. I buy projects because I hear about them off, oh cool, Llamaverse is here. I see them off OpenSea and then go and look for them on OpenSea. And if they were in Magic Eden, I'd still buy them. Now, I know that other people do browse through this and then pick projects based on what they see here. So it will probably drive some traffic to Solana projects. Yeah, I would imagine it will. I should probably add projects that are here into my index. Just realize this. Are there other questions? I don't know if I've answered this one very well, but I don't really have a very strong opinion. I think it might add some more traffic. Maybe we'll drive, like the thing that's needed in Solana, in my view, and I might be wrong, of course, is not so much more investors, but more better projects and a better curation of better projects. It's interesting because Polygon plus Clayton are also on OpenSea, but their volumes are much lower than Sol. Yeah, and like, some of these projects that are listed here on OpenSea at the moment are Polygon projects, and that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to do well just because they're on OpenSea. So, yeah, I'm undecided on what it's going to do. I'm curious to see it. It'd be nice if it did make Solana a valid platform for most of those currently Ethereum projects, because we'd be able to avoid having the gas fees costing so much. It'd be cheaper to trade, I guess. Oh, Pudgy Penguins is here as well, after being delisted. Interesting. Are there any other questions? If not, that's okay. We can call it a day at 14:18. It's we don't have to have questions. I'm going to put the music on because it always draws questions. And I'll see if I can remember to take the music off when I start answering questions. Yeah, I can't wait to have the new dynamic indices. I want this new top 10 that's actually more relevant. I'm tired of seeing projects in those bar charts that are just like, why is Pudgy Penguins in here? Like, it shouldn't have been in here since January, really. And yeah, I'll probably substitute Pudgy Penguins out from January onwards and historically readjust the index on that basis. Has World of Women been following the same pattern as all women-led projects? Can we have a look at that? Well, yeah, let's have a look at the... so we don't necessarily have an equivalent chart. Let me think. What can we look at for... Well, I mean, we can look at the like individual projects will often get more variation than the index. If we look at World of Women's activity here, we can see that, so if we take the last year actually and look from, we can see that apart from this recent thing here where, you know, they were about to launch World of Women Galaxies, and I think that's what drove a lot more activities because people wanted to buy it to be able to mint the World of Women Galaxies and so on. We can see that they also had a peak of activity in late December, early January, and then it's been kind of slowly dropping off. So yes, it has been following the same pattern. And then it started, like, you know, and this is where the individual projects' efforts come in. It started building up volume again towards this World of Women Galaxies. And then now that that's happened, it's kind of been back to the downtrend. And you can sort of like I believe you can see that across like projects, like they can escape the sort of sea current of the index of the market trends temporarily, and projects that are just relentlessly building and releasing new stuff will do that consistently, and those obviously are the ones that you want to invest in. But unless they keep delivering like week after week, basically, there's always a kind of reversion to the general trend of the market. And if you look all the way to here, I guess this is where they started announcing stuff about World of Women Galaxies. And if you look from here, like 10th of March back to like early mid-January, you can see the same chart that's happened. If we look at the women-led projects index, this same slow collapse. Remember, this is an exponential index. It's got a logarithm applied. So this is much, much higher than this, which, you know, the reason why I do this logarithmic index is precisely so that we get this kind of long, slow, straight line instead of what we get when we look at this, which is a massive spike. And by the way, I'm looking at the bars at the bottom there because that's the volume. The line is the price. And so instead of this massive spike followed by a drop where you can't really see what the variation is, this exact same shape, exponential drop off here, looks like a straight line when a logarithm is applied. And that's why I do that. So yeah, it has been following the same pattern as the other women-led projects. Obviously, World of Women Galaxies is somewhere else right now, in a different galaxy, I guess. If you look at this one, but it's only been going for a very short time, so you know you can't really draw any conclusions or long-term charts there. And it's had like immense amounts of volume, like 14,000 ETH in one day there. That was quite impressive. And yeah, it will come down. Like this is why also like in the index here, I fade the volume from mints, because mints often have outrageously high volumes, especially hype mints, compared to the regular activity of a project. And when it comes to the top 10 index, for example, this is why I'm marking, you know, World of Women Galaxy, Cyberbrokers, etc., Invisible Friends as orange, and not considering them for inclusion in a top 10 index, because the first month of activity is not necessarily representative of it being a relevant project. I think it has to last at least a couple of months before it's considered a relevant project. If World of Women Galaxy is still pulling that kind of volume day in, day out in a month and a half, in 2 months' time, then it is absolutely worthy to be included in this index. If it follows the same pattern as World of Women there, with a giant spike, and then a kind of long, slow decline, then in a couple of months, it probably won't be very relevant. There's other projects in here that had massive amounts of hype and stuff going on, and that now are just like kind of have dropped off massively. I'm not going to pick on one, but you can scroll through the list yourself and find those yourself. I'll post the list in the chat here. It is in the Twitter thread in case you're looking at it for afterwards. And maybe I'll remember to post it in a comment in the video this time. But yeah, there are projects that have had huge amounts of traffic in the past, but just are now near the bottom of this ratings list. Do we have any other questions? Oh, an interesting thing that I noted, by the way, is that if you look at cyberkongs, which I was curious, because that is currently the top 10, and I was wondering, like, is it increasing in relevance or is it decreasing in relevance? And if you look at the rating for cyberkongs in on 2 days ago, it's 8,344. 1 day ago, it's 8,322, so it's gone down by like 22, and now it's 8,331. So it's kind of stagnating in its relevance rating, and maybe trending down, but sort of stagnating, which shows that, you know, once a project has existed for the first 6 months, the rating is only going to increase, but for, well, it can decrease, but it's going to decrease relatively slowly. But after 6 months, if it becomes less and less relevant, that will really show in the ratings there, which is also a good feature, I think, of this algorithm. Okay, I'll put the music back on for a brief moment, and if there are no more questions, I will end this call very shortly. Thank you very much, everybody who's dialed in and everybody who's listening after the fact. And thanks for the comments from those who have posted comments saying why they listen afterwards and what they listen for and whether they listen to the end and so on, which seems like some people do. So my hypothesis that nobody who's listening later listens to the end was incorrect. So thanks for letting me know. And yeah, it's been lovely to have your attention again today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope this live stream was useful to you. Take care. Can we get... Well, I'm actually seeing my friend this afternoon, and I'll tell him that there's been a request that can we please have more music from him, because he can improvise this stuff. He told me he would record a whole pile of them, but he hasn't gotten around to it yet. I'll sort of nudge him and see if we can have a variety of them. Or there's also, Zoe has suggested some electronic music that somebody that she knows has created, so I might use that if Steve doesn't come up with the goods. By the end it gets me ready for a nap. It is quite soothing. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day and see you tomorrow. Take care.